questions are.
We need content.
Okay, so I think we will start the second session. I think we had a great first session in which we discussed the politics in Pakistan. But the reality is that we are here in states and all politics is local. If we organize here around the progressive values, we can be more effective, not only here, but also can have effect back home. So I will just start in 2016 when Hillary was running, and I had no clue that there was somebody like Bernie Sanders, till my brother-in-law Arsalan told me that, hey, just pay attention to what he's saying. And I said, well, he's not going to get elected. He said, no, just see, he has a big following. And I started to pay attention, and that was the moment in my life that changed me. I'm a physician, I'm a primary care physician, and today the only fact is that Medicare is the only solution to our healthcare system. Medicare for all, period. All other are noises, they're all distraction. So that has been my turning point, and I have been a very committed progressive since. I was just fortunate in 2020 when Senator Sanders was running, and they had nobody really in Nevada to host him initially when there were like 15 candidates. And somehow one of the Asian person asked me, hey Zafar, would you want to host one of his sessions? And I said, this is my dream. And I not only got involved, I became the campaign co-chair of Nevada, and we won with a landslide in Nevada. If you remember in 2020, after Nevada's win, in the CNN and everything said it's done. During that time, I realized that how there was no South Asian phone bank. There was nothing. Like we were trying, my wife and all of us, we made Muslims of Bernie, South Asians of Bernie, but there was no even phone bank to call the South Asian. They would look at all the last names. So we were so ill-organized that after that, some of us thought that we should organize more, and we set up a 501c4 Nevada outreach. That is when I realized one of the Derek's colleagues, Cody, started to consult us how to create 501c4 structures. Right now, if you see, most of the South Asians, Muslims are quote-unquote establishment-backed, not on the progressive side. So today, our discussion would more be how important it is for us to organize here. And we will hear different candidates, and Anya, who has been doing a wonderful job. She was with Bernie's, Muslims for Bernie, and she will share her experience. And so we will start with that.
Yes.
And,
thank you. Let's begin with Alex Mohajir. Sir.
Okay. Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Alex Mohajir. I'm a candidate for California State Senate here in Orange County. The 37th Senate District represents Irvine. How dare you? No, I'm just kidding. It represents Irvine and Central Orange County. I'm running as a progressive in Orange County, as an openly gay Iranian American in Orange County, in an area that is still a pretty purple area, and in some areas very red. But I think that this is a winnable race for progressives, because I think that right now is the time for intersectional, diverse progressive candidates to run grassroots campaigns in their hometowns, in their districts. So a little bit about me. I was born and raised in Irvine. My mom came to the United States from Iran in the 1970s with barely any English, working a good union job and going to school at night just to put food on the table and make sure her 4 kids could go to good public schools. And that is an experience that I think a lot of immigrant communities can relate to. But it's not just an immigrant story, but it is a uniquely immigrant story as well. And I think that one of the things I want to talk about as I launch into my race is the intersectionality between our communities and how much shared values we have. And there, right there, the idea that our families come here to make sure their kids have access to opportunity, that is a uniquely American, uniquely immigrant, uniquely Pakistani, Iranian, Asian American. We understand this experience very well. So my family struggled and sacrificed. We did not have a lot of money. I shared a bedroom with my mom until I was 17 years old. I started working very young. 12 years old was my first job. I got a job doing a paper route for the Irvine World News once a week, every Thursday, throwing papers because it was $40 extra for our family. And that extra $40 was maybe the difference between a meal that week. And all of that, living in that tiny apartment, all of us in one little room, to make sure that we could go to good Irvine public schools. And because of that, when my family couldn't afford to send me to college right away, I went to community college after that, and then got into one of the best public universities in the world, UC Berkeley. And when I decided it was time to go to law school, I came back here and I went to law school here in Orange County at Chapman University School of Law. When I look at my life, I look at the American dream personified. That's it, right? That's the American dream, to be able to give your kids the shot to have something better. But over the last few years, as I've come into my own, and I've been a lifelong activist, kind of fighting for a lot of the ideals that I think my mom came here to make sure that we have, it's become very clear to me that our country has become so divided, our politics is so broken, and it is a system that is fully funded on both sides by both political parties, by corporate PACs and special interests that are holding us back from making meaningful progress on a lot of the issues that we care about. So I'm running as an openly gay Iranian man to be the first openly gay Iranian man elected anywhere in the world. I will be the only Iranian in the California in the world that we know of. Very good point, sir. Duly noted. The only Iranian in the legislature, one of the youngest people in the legislature, the first openly gay person elected from Orange County. But I am not asking people to vote for me for any of those reasons. That's why my perspective is needed, and that's what I'm going to take to the legislature. I think it's important, but I'm asking people to vote for me because of what we can accomplish together when we send people from the community who are not funded by special interests, who are just taking grassroots donations, and that's it. I've taken a patients over profits pledge to my doctor friends here, meaning I won't take money from corporate healthcare PACs. I've taken a pledge to accept no fossil fuels money, because if we really want to get bold action on climate change, we have to do some grieving over the fact that it's not going to happen at the federal government. Doesn't matter who's president, doesn't matter who's in the Senate, who controls the House. There's an anti-democratic filibuster in the US Senate. Sorry, Derek, I know you're about to. But you know, we can get some progress at the federal level, I'm sure, but my broader point is that California has the fourth biggest economy in the world. And while that federal government is gridlocked and we've got the Supreme Court that is stacked by unpopularly elected Republican presidents ramming through bad policy, we got to send folks like Derek up to Congress to try to fix that, but we better get serious about some of the pressing global climate change issues and do it here in California at the state level. That's why I'm running for the state. But I need help from the grassroots to get it done, because in order to get this done, we've got to reject the special interests that are holding us back, right? So that's where community comes in. That's where it's so important that we recognize the intersectionality between Pakistani, Iranian, Asian communities, immigrant communities, and LGBTQ communities. For instance, right now there is a woman-led revolution happening in Iran. The people of Iran have been protesting for more than, 7, 8 months now, demanding basic human rights because a young woman in Iran was killed 8 months ago for having a little bit of her hair exposed. Now, regardless of your religious identity or religious affiliation, it's a movement for basic human rights. It crosses the spectrum of identity and geography. So if you care that people in Iran should have the basic human right of freedom of choice, then you might need to care that here in the United States there's an assault on women's reproductive rights. If you care about the liberty of the Iranian people and you care about the liberty of women here in the US, then you ought to care about the fact that LGBTQ rights are under active assault. When they come for one community, they come for all communities. So that's where this organizing is important. I'm going out to the community in Orange County and I'm asking people across groups, I'm asking even Republicans to support me. I'm saying, if you're tired of this broken system, then help. Join your local board, join a campaign, a local campaign, join your local candidate for Congress who's running a grassroots campaign. Ask him, are you taking money from fossil fuels? Are you check out their donors. Are you taking money from corporate PACs? And let's make sure we organize and donate to people who are running free from that influence. So I'm very proud to be running in the California State Senate and to be here with my colleagues and my friends and to speak with you all, because I think our communities are one and the same, and I'm looking forward to building people power with all of you as we move into this next election cycle. So if you're interested in learning more about me, please come to my website, alex4ca.com, and learn more about me, and let's keep in touch. Thanks so much.
That's such an inspiring story, and we'll come to some of the questions later, but I'll first ask Haniye to speak and also try and focus on the power and the importance of organizing.
Thank you so much. Salam alaikum. It is an honor and a blessing to be in this space with you, to be in community with you. We are neighboring countries, so our ideals and ideologies are very much the same. And I think when we talk about the progressive movement, we're also talking about what Islam represents in so many ways. And for me, growing up in Iran, my story is very much similar to Alex's story in that I am also an immigrant. I grew up, I was born at the end of, or towards the end of the Iran-Iraq War. So I've seen it all. I've seen waters be rationed. I've seen us not have electricity, not have enough access to food, and many people died, right? And I remember growing up in Iran with a grandmother who, when she prayed for her neighbors. She prayed for the well-being of others, right? So those are ideologies that I was raised with. And so as a woman, as a Muslim woman, I always see the need to fight for my neighbors, to pray for my neighbors, because if you eat, I eat, right? So that's been my motivation behind organizing in broader spaces. I had the honor and privilege of becoming familiar with Bernie Sanders' message when I worked in Australia for the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. I thought, my goodness, as a Muslim, I have more in common with a Jewish man than I do with, someone else, sometimes even my own community members, right? And that was the message of solidarity with the poor, right? Feed the poor, house the poor, make sure that they have access to very basic human rights, which is Medicare for all, universal healthcare system, right? So those were the messages that resonated with me. But also what Bernie did for me was he allowed me the opportunity to get engaged and involved. When I came here with my father, he painted this beautiful message of what America looks like, right? When I came here and I saw the homeless people sleeping in the street corners, I saw how many wars we send weapons to, and how many countries purchase weapons from us, right? I thought, my God, this is not the country that my dad promised. So what I will fight for is the promise of America, right? When Bernie reached out to our communities, it was by far one of the only presidential campaigns who reached out to our community, really to get engaged and involved. And that's when I knew I have a place, right? And I always say that if we're not at the table, we're on the menu, and our communities of color, always find themselves on the menu, right? So it is very important for us to have a say-so in policy writing, for us to have a say-so in determining what the future of America looks like, because whatever happens here happens over there, and whatever happens over there happens here. So when I got back from Australia, Trump was elected, which to us, many of us, it was a gut punch, right? And as someone who's a progressive, I don't necessarily lean towards the neoliberalism ideology, but I knew that Hillary was far better than a Trump candidacy and presidency. I quickly started organizing the Women's March in Los Angeles, and I organized for 3 consecutive years on their board as their partnership director. And I obviously, organized and served on the California board. And that's when I got to learn how important it is for us to actually reach out to communities that are also underserved, right? If we don't reach out to the Black Lives Matter, if we don't reach out to folks who are fighting climate injustices, if we don't reach out to labor, they're never going to reach out to us for our causes. So we have to be out there, we have to represent, and we have to join hands and have solidarity. That led me to, obviously organizing on a more political, broader level I was a Bernie Sanders delegate at the National Convention. I founded an organization, launched an organization that focused on Muslim voices and Muslim policy. And what I found as a delegate was that people were writing policies about our countries, but there weren't that many of us involved at the table. So I brought all of Biden delegates and all of Bernie delegates together in the Muslim community from all over the nation. We started writing policy and proposing policy at a national level. So that's how I got started in policy writing. But my policy writing and my ideas that I form and the policies that I write come from the pain of the people that I've worked with on the ground, right? And still at the root of it all is my Muslim foundation, the foundation in which I grew up in, right? Help the people, feed the people, house the people. And to your point, we are the 4th largest economy in the world, yet when you go to Los Angeles, when you drive around, how many homeless people do you see sleeping in tents? That's not the America that I came to live in. What is our Pentagon budget at the moment? What is our defense budget? $850 trillion we spend overseas, right, for wars. But we cannot provide free lunches for children at school. These are realities that we have to also fight for, right? And so, I'm also, right now, the only Iranian American woman in the history to work as a policy director for a presidential candidate. And so my background, the struggles that I grew up in, the organizing that I did on the ground, working with the Muslim community has helped form the policies that I write for a presidential candidate. And I always feel like if I don't engage my community in some sort of a dialogue, if I don't bring my community also to the table, we'll continue to be on the menu, right? So my message here to everyone is, we shouldn't just, reach out when there's a need. We should always be active, always, because there's always going to be a need for our voices at the table. And that comes through the power of grassroots organizing. That comes from the place of empathy for other causes, right? You cannot ask for people to show up to when you're in need, when you don't show up for them, right? So again, much of what I do is shaped in my religion. Much of what I do is to honor my grandmother. And much of what I do in terms of grassroots organizing and in terms of policy writing is to find an America as good as its promise. And that's the America that I'm going to fight for. And I'll urge every single one of you here to get active every single day, to read the news, to talk to your neighbors about it. But one more thing I will say, we have to also put our money where our mouth is. We have to start funding. We have to support candidates who are progressives. We have to start getting engaged, volunteering for them. And I have to tell you, as someone I'm managing right now, I'm also managing Derek's campaign, and I'm consulting on Alex's as well. If we don't have folks like our own in Congress, if we don't have them at the state senate, city council, our causes will not go forward or be highlighted. So I'm urging you to donate as much as you possibly can and just become involved, right? And I think that's the power of grassroots organizing. You give a little bit, and then you see these wonderful people in Congress and in the State Senate. So that's all I have to say for now.
Thank you. That's wonderful. So our next speaker is Derek Marshall, who's running for Congress. So maybe you could try and speak without the mic, because some people on Zoom prefer if there's no mic because of the echo.
Oh, because of the echo. Okay,
Yeah.
sure. Should we turn the mic off?
You think it's probably put it in front of you?
Yeah, just keep it
Put it up there. Okay, great. All right, can everyone hear me okay? Yeah. Awesome. All right, so hi everyone. My name is Derek Marshall. and I'm running for Congress in California's 23rd district. And for those of you that don't know California's 23rd district, it's a doozy. It's huge. It goes from it's basically a large part of San Bernardino County. And a fun fact about San Bernardino County: it's the largest county not only in the United States but in the entire world. So on the entire face of the earth, not China, not India, not Pakistan, like it is literally the largest county. And it includes Joshua Tree, it includes Big Bear, Lake Arrowhead, and the Victor Valley, which has about 500,000 people. A bit about my background. So, I think one of the things that I've heard here as a theme is the immigrant experience. And I think a lot of times when folks look at people that look like me, they think that we've been here for 3,000 years and we have, the say on everything that goes on in this society. Well, I'm here to tell you that obviously is not true, right? The country is, not even 300 years old. I just got back from the former Yugoslavia last week, where I was having conversations about ethno-nationalist tensions between the Serbs and the Bosniaks and the Croatians that go back 500 or 600 years, right? And before 100 years ago, my family did not exist here in this country, right? My family came in the 1920s and the 1930s from Germany, from Poland, from Sweden. My grandfather was an auto mechanic for Buick. He worked at Buick. He was a working class guy. My grandmother was a stay-at-home housewife. They didn't have college education. My father was the first in his family to go to college, in part because of some of the help that my grandfather received after getting back from fighting in World War II. And my father was the first in his family to go to college. He ended up being studying mathematics. He was the head of computer science at Boston University. My mother and father met over an early form of Messenger in 1976. While they were both students at Boston University. So when we talk about immigrant experience, right? When we talk about the American dream, we're talking about the ability of social mobility, right? And I think that based on a lot of the conversations I had last week, and over the last couple of weeks as I've been traveling, is, it really is up to all of us coming together to be able to figure out how we are going to make this heterogeneous, multicultural, multi-ethnic society work. It is going to require every single one of us sitting at the table as equals in order to figure it out. Now, my father, head of computer science at the lab, was able to provide for me, my brother, and my sister. I studied international relations at American University. Random fun fact that my first ever internship that I had at 18 years old was with the Council on American Islamic Relations in DC. And then I went to study international relations in my bachelor and master's. I speak 5 languages. I lived in China for a year. I speak Chinese. My second language is German. I lived in Germany for 10 years. I speak Spanish, which is very important for my district. And I speak some French. My brother-in-law is from Paris. And I bring that up because I think that my own personal experience, having lived in Germany, having spent a lot of time in Europe, having traveled to over 80 countries, including countries that are not recognized internationally, like Palestine and Kosovo, has given me a very unique perspective when it comes to international relations, when it comes to my progressive policy platform for having a vision of how we actually want to come together in terms of building the future society, right? So a lot of our societies have Medicare for all. They have a single-payer healthcare system, which provides for their citizens. So that's something I feel very strongly. Germany has a multi-payer public healthcare system, which actually Otto von Bismarck passed in the 1860s. So they've had it for over 100 years, and they're looking to also move it from public multi-payer into public single-payer, which is in line with England, which is in line with a lot of other countries. I believe very strongly in raising the floor. I think that one thing that I think that has happened to this country every single time that I get back from abroad and I come back to the United States, I feel like we're going further and further back in time. When I was a kid growing up, traveling, overseas and coming back to the U.S., you'd feel, oh, okay, I'm coming back to the future. I'm coming at least to the present. Now, every single time that I come back, and last week I came back from Croatia, right? I landed here to LAX, and how am I feeling that Croatia, right? Croatia and the former Yugoslavian countries, how do I feel like these countries are ahead of where we are? What is wrong with our society today? What is wrong with our politics? What is wrong with the way that we are organizing that is, basically allowing us to get broiled in these like internecine battles, political battles for no reason? And I think that one of the reasons that I have identified is that what we have unfortunately created in this country is a society that has allowed corporate power to get too strong, right? And I'm not saying that we need to eliminate corporations and corporate. What I'm saying is that we need to, have an examination of the economic engine in this country. And what we need to do is we need to take a look at other models that exist, whether it's in Germany, whether it's in Sweden, whether it's in South Korea, whether it's in Singapore, whether it's in India, whether it's in Pakistan. We have to look at all these societies and we have to say, what are different areas, that allow for, how are their societies working, right? How are, what does the economic engine look like? How are they redistributing how are they redistributing and making the economic model work? And I think that if we do that, what that's going to allow for is it's going to allow us to raise the floor again. So that no longer in my district, right, the median income in San Bernardino County is $24,000 a year. The median rent price in San Bernardino County is $2,000 a month. So already starting, people are underneath water. Right now, I'm driving Uber in order to organize people. So I get out, I drive 12 hours a day, and I'm driving to listen to the concerns of the community, talking to folks, speaking in Spanish, listening to the different stories. And what I see and what I hear are, right, the fact that the vast majority of people do not have a higher education degree. Only 18% of people in San Bernardino County have higher education. So what am I doing? I'm driving and I'm talking to a kid who's 19 years old. He graduated from high school last year. And what is he doing, right? Or what is she doing? They're driving to the warehouse and they're making $16.50 an hour. And I say, well, what does your future look like? And they're thinking, well, maybe in 2 years I can make $17 an hour, right? So what? They make $300, $400, $500 a week. There is no future right now for a lot of children and a lot of young people in the society. So we end up having this sick society of financial anxiety. And then we wonder, and we take a look, and we say, okay, well, we're not controlling guns, we're having financial anxiety. Less than half the country is can afford a $400 emergency fund. And so what's the resulting fact? We have unspeakable violence, and the country falls further and further behind. Now, the beautiful thing is that if we come together and we start to organize, then we can start to win. And I think that what we have seen is we have seen a renaissance over the past 10 to 15 years of communities, including the South Asian community, including the Muslim community, including the LGBT community, different communities coming together around campaigns. I was a staffer for Bernie Sanders in Nevada. And what we have seen is that there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people that are willing to stand up and that are willing to organize. But again, it's not something that any of us can run away from, because the choice is simple. It's either we continue to stand and continue to exist in the status quo that we are existing in today, or we get up off of our asses and we come together and we start to organize together. And so I'm going to stop right here because I want to have dialogue. This is not just this is just the way that I've kind of analyzed things. But I just want to kind of finish by saying that I really appreciate the fact that I've been able to come here today to offer up some of my thoughts on the state of the society. I'm very curious to hear and receive feedback and questions. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Once again, a great speech. Our last speaker is Hamid Khan. Can I get my phone so that I can I need to put it to my thing. So Hamid, if you can hear us. So Hamid is an organizer with the Coalition Against LAPD Spying. And it's a big community group, I'm sure all of you know, that looks at the excesses and the various misdoings of the LAPD. So Hamid, if you can hear us, can you hear me?
Is he unmuted?
Yeah, just a second, sorry. Yeah, please, go ahead.
All right, terrific, well, great. Well, thank you very much. I'm sorry I can't be there in person. Assalamu alaikum folks, hope everybody's doing well. My name is again Hamid Khan. I am calling in from Long Beach, from the greater Los Angeles area. I've been living in the United States. I moved here in the late 1970s, in 1978. I didn't go to school here, and most of my work has been around grassroots community-based organizing. So I think, and then more formal organizing started in 1990 with a group I helped found with the South Asian Network, which is based out of Artesia, Little India. Then I was involved in organizing and helped create the Los Angeles Taxi Workers Alliance, was building with that. And then in 2011, I helped found the Stop LAPD Spying Coalition, which is very much an abolitionist group looking to dismantle the national security police state and, just basically turn the tables over. So a couple things, that guide my work and inform my work is that, we're using language around organizing, we're using language around seat at the table, and then we're using language around grassroots politics. I think the question is that which table are we really building with or building at? If it's a table at the establishment, and if it's a table at partisan politics, then, I completely reject that. I am based out of Skid Row in downtown Los Angeles, and my work is really being guided and tutored and embraced and learning from predominantly unhoused Black people. And if we were to look at national security, so I think it's really critical that we completely debunk what national security is and come back to, on a ground level, that that's what national insecurity looks like. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, going back to the organizing piece, that and I've been organizing in the South Asian community for about 25 years, and then an additional 7-8 years in the taxi workers and all of that. So I've been working in the Desi community for a long time. But I think one of the things that had always challenged me and learned over time was that, I'm just going to be blunt about it, and I've never known to hold my peace back, that I think we have to first of all organize ourselves and overcome, which I would call a disease that we all suffer from, mostly in the non-Black, non-white people, and I think that disease is about anti-Blackness. It's the assumption of privilege of not being Black. And I think that's where we walk into the political framework and how politics happens in the United States, which is very much rooted in the genocide and enslavement of people of African descent and the genocide of indigenous people. And that still informs the structures, it informs education, it informs the healthcare system. So when we are speaking about Medicare for all, or we are talking about the corporate mafia, I think the big question is that what have we learned on the ground from particularly the Black and brown communities, the indigenous community and the Black community, that how has not only access, but the intent to cause harm has taken place over the last few centuries. So that's what brings me to my work with the Stop LAPD Spying Coalition, which has been around for 12 years now, which really looks at the police state, and we have to call it that the United States is a police state, a national security police state on top of that how our bodies, and particularly how race and poverty and suspect bodies are policed. And in that suspect body, I'm bringing in the queer trans folks, women, femme bodies, and bodies that are constantly considered the other. So I think what helps us then is to really frame our organizing and building that power on the ground, not to engage in advocacy and not to run after legislators because they're all tools, they're all a part of the establishment, but it's really about building that power and where we are at. Yesterday would have been Malcolm's 98th birthday. So I know, and there's constantly these debates about the ballot box or the barrel, or the just facing the barrel. But I think in this political white supremacist system, that what kind of power are we building in a multi-generational way, where the long-term goal is that the eyes on the prize are not they're looking for like next week or tomorrow, but the eye on the prize has to be looked at through this multi-generational power building. So that's what we've been doing, and I'll end by saying that just this work around Stop LAPD Spying Coalition is pretty intense. We have a lawsuit against us that we have in court because it's not just the expose, but it's also to help us all understand. And when we talk about surveillance and spying and infiltration, it's way bigger than the invasion of privacy. Because many of us have never had the luxury of privacy in the United States. I mean, our bodies have always been bared throughout. So that's where it is that do we talk with just the groups which that completely sell out, groups like the Muslim Public Affairs Council and various other groups who are constantly, and I'm just going to say bluntly, that they're pimping our communities, or are we just engaging in that kind of advocacy, or are we just engaging in deep popular education, critical education, and building that collective knowledge and collective learning, which is informed not by data, but people's lived experiences, that how families are being devastated, how predictive policing is destroying and literally making the ground beneath our feet and criminalizing the ground beneath our feet where the issue is about land. It's about the control of land. It's about criminalizing that land beneath our feet to constantly, banish people and to keep people in transmission in perpetuity, particularly if you're poor, if you're black, if you're trans, and if you're indigenous. So that's where the thing is. I mean, most recently we just published the photos of every LAPD officer, about 9,400 of them. The whole city has gone into a crisis mode in Los Angeles. They keep on coming after us. There's a lot of death threats and this threat and that threat. So we're like, fuck that shit. We gotta do what we gotta do. So I think that's where the time is for especially the basic community, that it's time for a bold vision. It's time to look around us and see that whether we are looking for a change from the top down, or we are sticking with the politics of nothing new that I'm saying, that we're building this power from the ground up and really being tutored and embraced and guided by the people who are directly impacted. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I'll stop there. So thank you.